Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our very first Business Inclusion and Diversity Program's virtual mentoring. As you know, through the BID program, which is what we refer to ourselves as, we're continuing to develop and implement programs and services that will not only be current, but vital to the survival and sustainability of minority businesses. We continue to be in the midst of this COVID pandemic, which forces us to do the majority of our exchanges virtually. And so when we had anticipated in 2021 launching our mentor protege concept, one of the things we were looking to do is to make sure that we aligned our subconsultants, minority local firms, with prime contractors or major contracting companies that actually have contracting opportunities that they can make available to our minority firms. And so today we have a wonderful panel that we're going to be talking about these things. But for now, we're going to try to see if we allow a few more businesses to sign on. I wanted to say hello. I am Karen HOLLIS. I thank you for joining us. I think that today is going to be a wonderful platform, but let's see if we can give a few more businesses an opportunity to sign on. So please just give us a few moments and be patient with us. And I will use that time to say good morning to all of you, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us and being my very first, I won't say victims, but panelists for this new virtual mentorship that we're looking to do. I think it's going to be a great exchange, and I'm looking forward. We have quite a few businesses that have registered, which means that it's something that businesses are definitely interested in knowing more about. So I'm hoping and I'm excited about today's session, being able to give them some good information that's going to help them to continue to be able to grow and sustain through this pandemic. So I can't thank you enough. We continue to work with our Tri-County area, and we started with Miami-Dade County because why? We do Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And so a lot of businesses take a few moments with technology challenges to sign on. So even though we like to start on time, for those that do sign up on time, I like to get on and say hello and good afternoon, but we do try to allow a good 5 minutes or so to let others sign on. So just thank you for your patience with me, and we should get started in a minute or so. But we have such good information, I do not want my businesses to miss out on any of it. Okay, now that we've allowed some additional time for firms to sign on, we know some are a little more tech savvy or tech challenged as I am and need a little more time. Thank you all again for joining us for today's session of BID's very first virtual mentoring. Again, BID is connecting prime and sub-consultants across the Tri-County area to overcome geographic and socioeconomic barriers. That continues to be a problem. And for those of you that may not know a little bit about the Business Inclusion and Diversity Program, all of my webinars I like to start by giving some information on the actual programs. But before I do that, I'm not just going to have my guests sitting here and you not know who I have with me. We do have Mr. Amaury Genao. He is with Turner Construction, and he is in the community and citizenship area, and basically they do supplier diversity and corporate responsibility. Okay, Amaury has been with Turner Construction for 12 years. And Amaury will go into more specifics of his qualifications and his specific role at Turner throughout the dialogue this afternoon in our discussion. But for now, I'd like you all to just please help me to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Amaury Genao. Thank you so much again for joining us. We also have with us Mr. Howard Diston. He is the president and owner of D2 Construction. D2 came into existence in 2003, but Mr. Diston himself has been in the construction industry for over 40 years. D2 Construction is considered, believe it or not, a small business according to the size standards and the qualifications of the Small Business Administration, the SBA we know them as. And minority firms continue to be a great source for sub-consultants to work on D2 construction projects, which is why it was imperative for us to have such a caliber of firm here on this panel today. Mr. Diston will go into more detail about current and upcoming projects throughout our dialogue. But for now, I want you all to just join me in welcoming President Howard Diston to our conversation this afternoon. So this is the panel that we're having. But for those of you that may be taking your very first BID webinar, I always start these webinars with a little more information about the Business Inclusion and Diversity Program here at the City of Miramar. Now, what is BID? This is the program that the city has implemented to ensure more inclusion for minority contractors. It's a program that was developed at the offset of the disparities study. And what is it that we're essentially trying to do? Three things: building resilience, creating opportunity, and advancing sustainability. And BID does that in a myriad of ways. There's several programs and services that we advance. For those of you that are seasoned BID supporters, you know that we have the BID Fit webinars that we've been doing amid the pandemic. And these are webinars that we implement programs and services trying to improve the equity building concept and allowing businesses to secure those tools and skills that they will need to be able to bid more on contracting opportunities here at the city. We've had a Bid Fit series that we did at the beginning of the year, and we had bonding specialists and experts on board. We had insurance experts on board. We had individuals to assist businesses and minority contractors in understanding how to respond to a bid solicitation. We had experts on board that were assisting us in making sure that bids know how to project price so that they don't price themselves out of the business, out of the contracting opportunities, so that they can be more successful in securing contracting opportunities. We also have the Bid Connect. That's another webinar platform wherein BID uses to connect various businesses to those key stakeholders. We've had individuals that came on that does financing and credit repair. So we're trying to not only align minority companies to be able to connect and work together with one another, but as well as with our community stakeholders throughout the Tri-County area. We also have our BID Academy, where we're looking to educate, and we'll continue to try to educate on what it is that we're trying to accomplish with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so a lot of the platforms that will come through BID Academy are those of an educational atmosphere, trying to ensure that we continue to keep our businesses on the 21st century dialogue of the most upcoming news and information that's being advanced, to ensure that they remain able to build their business, grow to a capacity that will ensure that they're more viable when it comes to supplier diversity and securing contracting opportunities that they desire here with the city of Miramar, not just here with the city, but throughout the Tri-County area. Okay, so that's a little bit more about BID. So let's get on with what we've designed for today's session. Now, this is Miramar's mentoring platform for mentors and mentees to form new equity building relationships. Okay, now, because we're still in the midst of the pandemic, we're going to have to do this virtually. The original concept that we were going to be advancing was to actually have this to be live and to have contractors be able to, sub-consultants and minority contractors and all of the part, be able to come and have a platform where they can ask prime contractor questions. We know that we have pre-bid meetings. We know that sometimes they're mandatory. But as a contractor, especially a construction owner, you know, Mr. Diston, a lot of times when you have those mandatory pre-bid meetings, most of the contractors like yourself are extremely busy, don't always come early enough. We try to literally make sure that we have time so that we can have relationship building before, during, and after. It gets a little more complicated during the session because why? The procurement department is trying to lay out the guidelines for the solicitation. But unfortunately, a lot of the primes don't come early enough so that the minority contractors can build those relationships that the program and those sessions are trying to foster. And then what happens, Mr. Diston? You guys, how are you so busy? You're trying to get back to work.
That's true.
So as soon as the session ends, the majority of the primes are leaving, and the sub-consultants have very little, if any, time to literally build relationships. And so I thought that this would be a great opportunity when you're talking about mentoring, to be able to develop a platform in which primes and subs can dialogue and subs can ask those questions that they don't have an opportunity at any other venue to be able to do so. That's the essence of today's concept. Okay. And so I thank you all. Now, to begin, we'll go back and forth. As I alluded, we have all of the questions that will be presented here. There are a few agency questions because I have to do my job. But most of the questions that are being submitted were submitted by minority contractors. And so I am going to be asking their questions on their behalf because due to the pandemic, as you guys are exercising with your mask on, which I do respect, we're having to social distance and do these things in a way via technology. And so I would like to start off with an explanation and talking a little bit about mentor-protege programs. And we know that you, Amaury, are the one that's actually been working with mentor-protege programs for the last decade. So I'd like for you to start and give us a little bit an idea about what you've seen, what is and what you've come to learn and understand about mentor-protege programs, and what you've seen in terms of these types of programs. Amaury, please.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Buenas tardes. Yeah, I've been in this industry for over a decade, and unlike our fine gentleman here, my entire career has basically been in supply diversity. I'm from New York originally. I work out of our New York office, and I was under my director, Stephanie Burns, and under her leadership and guidance, I got to see us have a chance to work with agencies, Port Authority, School Construction Authority, agencies that are basically, you have the equivalent here in South Florida, and we've seen the different dynamics of what different mentor-protege programs can look like. Now, some mentor-protege programs can be, more formal. You have a memorandum of understanding that says, hey, these are the guidelines, this is how often we're meeting, these are the expectations, these are the networking opportunities and the contacts that we'll be able to establish through this program. And then sometimes, unfortunately, or depending on what type of relationship you might like, some mentor protege programs are a little bit more casual, where it's just like, hey, here's my contact. You were kind of assigned to me. Whenever you have a question, just send me an email, and then realistically, it's just like, I'll get to it when I can. And those are not as productive. I think
Exactly.
I think a good mentor protege program has to involve everyone. So if it's a mentor protege program with an agency, the more the agency is involved in helping you select a qualified contractor to participate in the program, it's incredibly helpful. If it's an agency that's working on a specific project or a private client, the more the client is involved and has buy-in, the more access you give that contractor. And then the more that someone like Turner is involved in overseeing the matchmaking, you know, you're just not assigning a contractor to a person that you know might not be a good fit, or just might not actually lead to productive, you know, contract awards. I think all of that, it takes a person to kind of step back and be able to see all that. And I think in my position, if I'm doing my job correctly, it's when you see that, you can step back and say, well, you know, this is a small contracting firm. Maybe they can work with our special projects division, which has mostly interior jobs, so that contractor can gain a lot of experience quickly and then start bidding quickly after. And it's just like, hey, look at their pre-qualification and say, you know, well, this contractor, they're not there yet with regards to the amount of volume. They might want to be there, but look at this project. They have packages that are good for them to actually be able to get in, do the work without actually stretching themselves out. Because the last thing I want is a contractor that's, you know, their entire team is on one project. Because if that project has a delay, unfortunately, like COVID or something like that, it's just like, well, your portfolio is there. So I think in the most productive mentor protege programs I've seen, it's just a lot of collaboration, a lot of meetings, and getting feedback from the person that's actually the mentee. Like, hey, is this working for you? Does this meet your expectations? And what do you like to see out of this? I think as long as everyone's communicating, has a plan, and it doesn't feel like it's just we're doing this because we're going after this job, I think that's when they're productive.
Excellent, which is why it was imperative to have Turner Construction. They do have one of the most successful mentor protege programs that's being implemented here in the Tri-County area in South Florida. So it was imperative to have them, and it seemed only fitting to have them at the offset of us introducing our new mentor protege platform, and that we're looking to implement here at the city of Miramar. And so I'm excited. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. I believe it or not, I have some questions from one of the female consultant on mentor protege that we'll get on a little later. But one of the reasons that we talked about is about the prime contractors and the subcontractors not being able to foster relationships. So Howard, you said it's okay, Mr. Diston, if I refer you as Howard. We have a lot of women-owned businesses, and this is the month that we celebrate women. And we have a multimedia woman-owned business that submitted some questions, and she wanted to know, is there a media component in your construction bids for a certified media sub? She actually had 3 questions, but I'll read them and then we'll talk about them individually. And she wanted to know, do you include videos that showcase your work to win bids or for marketing your company? And she also wants to know, video is the best. She made a statement that video is the best practice for primes to consider in this 21st century technologically advanced era, and this platform is evidence of that even more. She wants to know, do you see value in adding it to bids for projects or for raising the company's online presence? So this is a video media company. The owner of that company, woman-owned business, and I do know her name, Karen, and she wants to know, have you as a construction company ever used this platform or this tool in your construction projects, or can you speak to her if you have in terms of how it is that she, as a business owner, small sub-consultants, can offer her? I'll start with Howard and then we'll come over to you so with this dialogue. So what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I've been working in this industry for many years, and my biggest client right now is Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And at one point I didn't think that video or media services would be ever required in winning a job, but right now with the contracts that are being issued by Miami County Public Schools, they're not going out as open bids. Some of these contracts are being like requests for proposals, and so you have to put together a presentation if you're shortlisted, and that presentation you present on a slide or video. And you know, that's been very important in winning these projects. Your video has presentation has a certain points that are awarded to it. So if you don't do a proper presentation, you might lose out on that proposal. So right now, every 4 years, I have to put together a presentation to get my contracts renewed. So definitely, I see that as a very important aspect of moving forward.
So you have used video, and you actually used, because when I saw it, and she has provided a video that she asked that I forward to the two of you. So in making your presentation, is that your response to the actual solicitation?
Yes, it
that
is.
you create a video?
Yes, it is.
Very
And you have to
interesting.
show what you have done in the past, so you're pretty much you're showcasing your company, and you're showing all the experiences that you would have, but you also have to make it specific to that proposal, request for proposals. So it's important that you keep your presentation updated.
Okay.
So to have somebody like that on your team is very important.
Very interesting. So that's good. It was important for me to make mention of the fact that D2 is still a small business. We have several small businesses that use a great deal, a myriad of sub-consultants on Tier 1 and Tier 2 in terms of inclusion for minority contractors. But even as a small business, he is using video marketing in addition to responding to the solicitation. Because with a mentor-mentee relationship, especially with this platform, we're also using this to educate minority businesses of a lot of the tools and the services and the ways in which businesses like yourself that are being successful in securing contracting opportunities. So you're actually using technology in addition, and you submit the video with the solicitation
No, you don't
response?
submit it with the solicitor. You actually go and you present in front of a panel, and they record, you know, they give you points based on your presentation.
Excellent. Okay, so then the better question, because I do understand my role here today, if Karen, and my name just happened to be Karen as well, but if she was sitting here, the very next question I could see her saying, if the majority in terms of mentor-protege, remember, those relationships are being fostered at these pre-bid meetings after a solicitation has already been released, okay? So at that moment, is that when you look? When do you try to secure, in this case, I'm definitely going to, and for all of you businesses that I reached out to saying, submit me your questions, the purpose was so that I can ask these questions and position you to get contracting opportunities. So I will be forwarding you her package, but let's say, how would a business be able to connect with you beforehand? Because she's one of the reasons that I came up. Literally, this is a company that came to me a year ago and said, Dr. Hollis, how is it that you can get us to be able to talk directly with the primes? And so I created, not anticipating COVID. COVID caught all of us by surprise. In 2021, we would be doing this platform in person, whereby I was going to have, just like we did our webinars and workshops before, pre-COVID, in person for them to ask you questions. But I wanted to continue. How would she approach someone ahead of time?
All right, good question. As I said before, Miami-Dade County Public Schools is my client that I'm dealing with. And the way that they put out their request for proposals is online, dadeschools.net. If you go onto that website, you'll be able to find that section that has the proposals, the request for proposals and solicitations. and then they'll show you a list of of primes who are shortlisted. Because you present your presentation in, they review it. If you meet certain criteria, then you're shortlisted, and then you're requested to present. So that would be an ideal way to find out who have been shortlisted, who's going to require to be present, and then you can reach out to them and see if they would, want to use your services.
Okay, excellent, excellent. That's good information. Go onto those lists and see when they're shortlisted, and then you can send Karen your video presentation to all of the firms that have been shortlisted. That's excellent information, and I truly hope I've encouraged all of the businesses that have submitted questions to sign on today to be able to hear the answers to their questions. And of course, we are recording this session so that even if, let's say, for this particular contractor that's a subconsultant that submitted questions is not able for whatever reason to attend today, she will be able to review the recording of this session. And I'd like all of you, I failed to mention at the beginning, if you have any questions for us today, even though you were not able to submit questions in advance, please, in the chat box, please submit any and all questions that you have for the panel. We do have quite a list that have been submitted ahead of time, which we're hoping we can get to all of them today because it's been quite a few, which is excellent. We've gotten a great response, but I do want you to submit your questions and know that we may not be able to get to them during the webinar, but all of your questions will be submitted to the prime contractors for them to respond, and either they will respond to you directly if you provide your email address and information. Feel free, if you want the question to be directed to either Amaury or Howard, and say who or both of them. My office, the City of Miramar, we will definitely ensure that your questions are forwarded and you will get a response from either them or myself. Okay, now, Amaury, I'd like you to chime in. Is this something that Turner, in terms of now, and I'm glad I started with you, a small business. Surely if a small business is using multimedia for their presentation responses, I suspect that a much larger business like Turner is doing the same?
Yes, and it all depends on the client. You have some clients that are requesting it, and you were right several times. COVID has expedited the usage of having a functional website to having proper ability to propose, respond to proposals using digital media, and yeah, it's a thing that we have done. I've seen proposals, and here in Florida, I've seen proposals that a competitor actually included a QR code. So it was like, here's my documents, here are my documents that you score and you will have been reviewing as a committee, and then here's a QR code. You can scan it and see it digitally at your convenience. So I've seen things like that. For my role, to her question would be also, it's also part of my job to either connect her with us with regards to, hey, we have this person that can provide these services, or if I conduct an event like let's say a Meet the Primes, to actually have her either come and visit so she can actually present her services, and just make those connections. Because it's right, it's tough to come in, especially someone like that, where it's just like, okay, I can do this. Now how do I get in contact with anyone to let them know I can?
Wow.
So for her, someone like me or Mimi Flatley, which covers our Central Florida, we're her contact, and we work directly with business development because that's just our role. And but Meet the Primes, events like this, getting opportunities to follow up and say, hey, have a demo. Hey, this is what I can do. And also understanding the agencies and the clients and saying, hey, I understand that this bid's on the street. I can help you satisfy this need. So it takes a lot of diligence, but the opportunities, especially now, are going to be there.
Excellent, excellent. Wow, so that leads us now, here at the City of Miramar, we are looking to develop our program, and minority businesses, is like Minority Women-Owned Business, M/WBE programs. We're looking to have what's called the micro/small business enterprise, as well as the minority women business enterprise, the combo. Now with that, what is a micro business, right? the two of you was like, we've heard the concept, but a micro business, as we are defining it, is either a sole proprietorship, an independent contractor, someone that's self-employed, a self-employed individual or firm that operates on a very small scale with no more than 2 or more people. Now, with that, and then I let me tell you where I'm going with that, because when we're talking about this mentor and mentor protege programs, these are the types of firms that I find that are really best positioned to be able to work with prime contractors and to be positioned before to seek the solicitation and the help of prime contractors. Now, I'm not sure if either you are aware, but there's this new thing from moving from so much the traditional ways of mentorship to something called sponsorship. Have you heard of that? Especially you, Amaury, because this is your area. There's this move in the 21st century, really. It's changing this new mentor protege process to the protege process from the mentor protege traditionally, as you described it, because it has come to be known as a big brother, big sister type thing. Call me if you need anything. Well, Mr. Diston, he's not looking to join a program. He is a small business, certified small business, or we have some that have one that has submitted a question that I'm going to read his question, but they're looking for work.
Right.
They don't want to just call you if they have a problem. That's nice to have, but we're developing, and I can only speak for the city of Miramar, we are developing our mentor protege / sponsorship program. We're going to have a dual aspect to that as well, to try to position these businesses to get work. So with this new sponsorship idea, it's not so much, they say the mentor, and I'm going to give you this article. It was released on November 23rd of 2020. I'm not making this up. And it says the title of it is from Moving from Mentorship to Sponsorship, securing new seats at the table. So in this article, it says that mentorship is more about develop, support, encourage and advance, and offer insight, which is what you know, which is why it's fallen into, and not as many have been as successful as Turner. Now, the new approach, sponsorship, when you hear sponsorship, we're not asking you for any money. Because when you hear sponsorship, or whether you're looking for us to pay for the business, no. But there's this new move that sponsorship, as this article describes, and it's about the diversity and inclusion, keeping up with human capital, relationships, and networking. And it says those are the qualifications of mentors: develop, support, encourage, and advancement, and offer insight. Sponsorship is drive, promote, enable advancement, and companion visibility, which means you're not just on the phone with Mr. Diston, but you're making sure you see Mr. Diston on all of the projects that you're advancing in the future. And so, for example, let's take the micro business. We have a micro business that is a small business, individually owned. Let's take Mr. Diston, who was 40 years into construction before he opened his own construction company. Well, that's great. Construction companies are still well respected, even if it's a small business. There's a principal consultant that submitted, it's called Integrated Project Systems, IPS, and they do scheduling and cost controls. Here's an individual that's been doing this in this industry for decades, educated, civil engineering, he's an actual civil engineer, certified business. And so these types of micro businesses, these are the type of businesses that we're looking to target for this micro. They, with these scheduling and cost controls, these types of expertise, instead of being brought on as a sub-consultant, they're being asked to come on as an employee. And that's been a problem. And so we're looking to see in this, that's where sponsorship is. It's not so much trying to use the micro business to secure the bid, to have those extra points and then not find a way to use them on the project, but we're looking, the sponsorship aspect is to more make sure that you identify with viable micro businesses that offer more than just the administrative services that you know that they're looking always, but in civil engineering and these critical components of a construction project, to be able to go to that sponsorship where you're driving them, you're ensuring that when you get a project, you are developing your response to that solicitation with your mentees that you're now sponsoring, and you've committed to sponsoring. So whenever you're responding to your solicitation, you're responding, making sure that they are visible in that response, because you're trying to drive, as much as you're trying to drive more work for Turner and D2, sponsorship is you're also trying to drive business to these micro firms through this sponsorship component. So I'm going to ask you his question, okay? And it's really simple. He says, and I'll pose this to the both of you, okay? He says, can you ask the prime contractors, Dr. Hollis, to provide you with a list of professional services that they do not have in-house that they would be willing to outsource to qualified small business enterprises like myself? Because you know, on a lot of these construction projects, scheduling and cost controls is something that you all look to do in-house.
Yes.
Question, go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Diston.
I can talk to that because, as again, the way the Miami-Dade County Public Schools set up their program is that they have these goals that you have to meet. And one of the goals are geared to pre-construction services. And some of the pre-construction services involve constructability, estimating, site visitation, constructability reviews. And so there are certain percentages that you have to meet, and that's one of the points that you have to gain to get the project. And so for sure, I would be interested in looking at using a company such as this, or a micro business such as this, especially if they're a minority in terms of a black company, because that also leads up to a lot of the advantage of gaining a project if you utilize MWBE clients. So
Which he is. I will be providing you with his resume.
Definitely, I would be happy to have his information, because for sure, all of these firms that go after these solicitations have to meet these goals, especially on the pre-construction services. And you have to hire them as a sub-consultant.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Amaury, Turner.
We've hired on various projects nationally. We've hired individuals that are in the same position to do scheduling and those more pre-construction services. Now, what's going to impact that also is going to be the size of the project. It's going to definitely impact whether or not a person like that can be brought in, or if you're going to try to see it done in-house. So yes, of course, you have to meet any goal set by any agency or client or internally. But I think it's going to be it's just going to be an assessment where it's just going to be like, okay, this project is coming up, we're going after it, this is the particular goal. All right, well, do we have, because you never want to be in a position where procurement's like, hey, do you have a person? And then you're like, maybe.
Exactly.
Are they certified? Oh, well, let me check. Like, I need to have them in the ready and say, look, these are firms, have them actively compete for this position and for this contract award, but they're pre-qualified, they're good to go, they provide these services, and they will also assess and allow us to meet these goals that are set. But yeah, it's going to depend on having qualified firms and also matching it with the appropriate project.
And there are a lot of variables that always has to be considered. But I will tell you that in speaking with the gentleman is that the challenge that he's found, and he is not any different than any other micro business, is that the primes will secure him and win the bid, but these are types of services that he's struggling to find that they will outsource, and which is why he's the perfect type of micro business for the sponsorship. So even if traditionally these are the types of services that are in-house, let's say like when they do the apprenticeship programs, services and things that you would normally do in-house, when you have an apprenticeship program, you allow the apprentice and you allow the mentee to do it. Now, would sponsorship be a tool? And you may not be, I don't want to put you on the spot, Amaury, but unlike Mr. Howard, you don't own Turner, but I want to get to the meat of this. Would that be, that's where the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. We're looking for you, Amaury, and Mimi, which referred me to you, to be able to really, we're looking to have these prime contractors to really drive to and educate the agencies and the powers that be, the engineers, in understanding the importance of inclusion for these minorities. When you can go out and you can find viable minority subconsultants and contractors with tools and skills that can not only drive a project but thrive on a project, then we're looking through that sponsorship more so than mentorship. Mentorship will get them access to you and Mimi. Sponsorship is the next level that will get you to make them visible to your engineers. Now you're understanding the sponsorship concept a little better?
Becoming clear.
Exactly. And so that's what we're looking to. So let's keep on. We have quite a few questions. Now, we were given some questions from an insurance consultant. And here are some of the construction questions that come up. He says, is 2. Number 1, experience modification, which he underlined. They submitted their own questions to me in writing. Experience modification, and this is a measure of the workers' compensation loss experience of a contractor. And his question is, should this factor be used to accept or reject a contractor? Other aspects of the contractor's skills should be included. Do you understand that question,
I
sir?
do.
And I go with construction.
Right.
I'll go to you first,
Well,
Howard.
in my experience, I've never used the modification factor as a reason to disqualify a contractor. As long as he can provide workers' comp, he's going to be, and he's the lowest responsive bidder, he's going to win the bid. Now, you know, we put bids out and we put certain criteria that they have to meet. There's certain insurance that they have to carry, minimum insurance, and that insurance normally is dictated by the client or the owner.
Procurement department,
Right,
the
right.
agency, yes.
So I've never used that as a criteria of disqualifying them. And you know, the owner or the agent who is putting it out, they would have to have that in their policy for us to stick to that. But as far as I've seen, we've never used that.
Excellent. You as a prime. Did you want to speak to that, or? Go
That's
ahead.
fine. So in our pre-qualification for any contractor, whether you're a minority subcontractor or not, your EMR is there.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the application.
What is EMR?
You're in-
On behalf of my minority consultants that may not be
Experience
understanding.
Your experience modification rating.
Yeah.
So, you know, when after 3 years, typically you get it. It's what, 1.0
Right.
as your baseline. So procurement does look at that when they're assessing contractors, along with your financials, along with your leadership, and then of course if you've done work with us before. So I've never seen it in my experience disqualify a person, but it is part of your story. You know, if you have an EMR that's, you know, below 1 and you've been able to keep your frequency of events or injuries or anything like that on your project team, then yes, it will help you. You know, you can use it in your advantage. But I've talked to our insurance people before, and they said, well, the EMR isn't a good complete story because it also takes time to get the EMR, an incident, off your record.
Absolutely.
So they can't use it solely because you can be on a new job and you're still trying to kind of like, it's like fixing your credit, you know.
Yes.
It's easy to hurt it. It's easy to hurt it and get those points to drop, but it's harder to recover it. So sometimes it's just not good because it takes time to get you right where you need to be. So they are more interested in looking at how frequent, and how many recordable incidences, and the frequency that they occur. It's more important than just that. But in a pre-qual, it's just part of your story. It's not everything.
So it's not necessarily for the answer to your question, is not necessarily something that will reject a contractor. But you know, when it comes to insurance and bonding, it's a huge barrier.
Mm-hmm.
We try to explain to minority subconsultants, and just you're preaching to the choir. Insurance is not necessarily a barrier, but there are components like this that creates a barrier and makes it more difficult for the minority contractor to be able to compete and secure the required insurance, because insurance is a requirement. We've seen the bridge fall, and I use that as an example to let them know sometimes something can go very wrong in a project. And as a protector of public dollars, we have to ensure that we have the proper insurance in place to protect the agency. And that's why procurement put those things in the solicitation to ensure that the qualified bidder and responder is in putting those and implementing protections in place for both the city of Miramar, which is the only thing that I can speak to, as well as you as the contractor, because the truth is something can go wrong. And when something goes wrong in construction, as we saw, unfortunately, it can go very wrong and people can die. So it's not a barrier that we can just eliminate, but I'll speak to you when you talk about it's not necessarily something that they're using to reject. What I believe the contractor is trying to say, are there things being put in place? Are you able to speak to this? If you see that it's something, if you're in those meetings and it's something that's being used as a barrier against the contractor, are you, I know you as an owner,
Right, yes.
Howard, you can definitely, but I want to know in a case of a Turner and you're in the room and you're the supplier diversity consultant and the contractor, the micro business can't be there to speak for themselves. How is it that you are able to eliminate it to ensure that it's not becoming a barrier?
Well, I have, thankfully, here in South Florida, I have a lot of contact with our procurement team. My life, I live between procurement and business development. So I'm like that one in the middle, that person in the middle that can kind of say, hey, we've established a relationship. They've gone through some of our programs. This is their job history. And I think that these projects, because I worked on them on the RFP side, we've been awarded, and I think they are capable of performing work on these jobs.
Excellent.
And I can be an advocate. Like I said, if I'm doing my job right,
That's right.
at the end of the day, my job is to work for Turner, but at the same time, pretend like I don't. Because I have to be an advocate for minority-owned businesses and WBEs throughout the Tri-County area. So I am in the room talking to Greg Walker, and I'll have them later when we discuss things. And just to say, hey, these are contractors that we've worked with, we've vetted, we talked to agency. There's nothing stopping me from reaching out to the city of Miramar and saying, hey, can you give me your list? Like, who are your pre-qualified subs?
Excellent.
And just make sure that they're not just a number in the system, because that's how contractors get frustrated. It's just like, hey, I filled out my pre-qualification, am I just an index number on a system that doesn't get looked at? So my job is to make sure that procurement is aware of these contractors and to make sure that the data on my side is up to date, and to make sure that they have opportunities.
Excellent. He had a second question. The second question, property coverage, he underlined. Some government entities require subs to cover the deductible portion of this coverage carried by the government entity. This puts a burden on smaller contractors. Have you seen this?
Well,
Howard?
I have not seen that. I have not seen that. In fact, I've seen where the owners or some government agencies, they provide the property insurance for their contracts. So I've not seen that in my experience.
Okay, that's good. But this is a gentleman that actually writes insurance for minorities.
Right.
So I can assure you every question he's
probably
had
exists,
is something
but-
that he said. Have you, Turner? Because you've done a lot. This is a smaller construction
Right.
company nationwide. You're from the New York office of Turner. Have you, I'm sure you've seen some of this with Turner?
I've seen it, but I'm not intimately experienced with it.
Okay.
Thankfully, because we have a large office and we do have resources, for me, everything's a matter of a phone call, right? So if I don't have the answer, I can reach out to TSIB, which is our surety arm, and say, hey, in this situation, what's the best protocol? Or I can have this gentleman directly contact TSIB and say, hey, these are my specific concerns, and get more details. To be like, well, this is really what I'm getting to. This is the project I'm actually talking about. What do you think my
Excellent.
options are? So for me, I haven't personally experienced it, but I'm not in that world. And but I do have resources that they can easily contact, and we'll get a response to any specific question that they might have.
Excellent, Amaury. I love that. And I am going to provide you with both his questions, but I definitely will make sure, because I know for a fact that it's Jim Drake, and he is an individual that works tirelessly to be able to assist minority contractors in securing insurance for construction projects. So I wanted to know, Howard, did you have anything you wanted to follow up on that?
Yes, I wanted to also mention that in my experience, a lot of the owners and contractors that I work with has offered what they call OSIP, Owner Controlled Insurance Program, where everyone under the project, all subcontractors, have to be under that umbrella. And it's something that they take out of your contract amount, but you find that you don't have to go out and get insurance for that particular project. You're under that umbrella. So it's a benefit in the sense that you can save on your insurance premium. Some insurance companies allow you to do so, and then they'll adjust the premiums based on the fact that you're paying, they're not going to double dip. You're paying the owner to be under his umbrella. They're not going to charge you for that particular contract. So it's worked out in my experience.
Now, is that something that you would prefer, or you want to see more of coming from the client side, or?
I think it helps a lot of the smaller micro businesses to be involved in these projects, because at times they might not be able to gain insurance on their own. And so if you can become qualified under the owner controlled insurance program, I think it's a benefit for micro businesses who doesn't have the capability of going out and getting insurance for that particular project.
And that would open more of them up for you to be able to use.
Absolutely.
on tier 2.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll be definitely forwarding both of those questions to the two of you. Okay, let's keep it going. Now, again, we're celebrating women, the women-owned businesses. We have another woman-owned businesses. She does project services sub-consultant. She has 4 questions, so I'll do one, allow you to answer, and then we'll go to the other ones. So hers are a little more intricate. Okay. How can small businesses like mine that offers non-technical project management services on construction and engineering projects position ourselves as value-adding subs to primes such as yours to participate on these projects?
Now, I think the first question I would have is, what is the business exactly, right? Like, what's the specific business that she's offering that's non-technical, right? Mm-hmm. Is it someone that's cleaning trailers? Is it a catering service? It's because, and the reason I would want to know that is because I want to know how to assist her, right? So the pre-call is incredibly technical. Mm-hmm. Like, are you pouring concrete? Are you reviewing these things? And sometimes the pre-call, if you're non-technical, not one of those services that's easily thought of in the industry, mm-hmm. it doesn't apply to you. Like, half the thing doesn't apply to you. So you kind of you have this extensive document, and you're just like, well, I don't know how to answer these questions. So I think relationship building is going to be the biggest thing that this individual can do. Like, she has to network, because I need to be able to understand what she does and how it can be applied to a project. So it's just like, okay, cool. So she cleans, she works in trailers, or she provides safety vests, whatever it is that she does. I need to actually know that I then have to have a conversation, because she doesn't fall within our standard construction codes. She's not going to be someone that I can just be like, here,
a NATE code.
Run with it. And it's easy, like, okay, cool, we have these packages. So she has to have a lot of relationship building. So either watching programs like this, or attending procurement fairs. Hopefully they're in person, because doing them virtually is not as exciting.
I know.
So she has to do her due diligence, and also understand who the right person to talk to is, because not every time you go to an event, the person that's behind that booth is the person that kind of might make sense. If it's just like, oh, this is a project manager, okay, cool, they might know all the logistics of what they need on a construction site, but that might not be the person that she has to have a communication with to see how her services can be implemented on a project.
Okay, good. And it leads me, before I go over, because I'm going to get Howard's input, but you mentioned earlier that Prime, you alluded that Prime had something Turner does something called Meet the Primes. Now, do you advertise for that? How is it if the minority contractors that are on today? Because I try not to interject while you're speaking, but I did hear you mention something in the answer earlier about Meet the Prime session. That's something that Turner does regularly, or in the past, will they be doing it again? If so, how can our participants today get advantage and take advantage of that information? I will, of course, be providing you with these questions.
Of course. So yeah, Meet the Primes is a program where our subcontractors can actually meet either larger contracting firms that are on our projects, and they can also have a chance to meet the client. Because soliciting just me and Turner is great. Having you on our project is great. But at the end of the day, my job is to make sure that you get consistent work. And where you get that consistent work from is going to be better when it's just not from me, right? Because then that way you can grow in size, you can grow in capacity, you can grow in experience. Well, with Turner we did, we worked in Miami International, we did Fort Lauderdale Airport, but then with this other client we were able to do residential, and we were able to do these other jobs. So Meet the Primes, I am coordinating it now. We don't have specific dates, but I do want to do one. I want to host one in the summer, and we're just lining up clients, large contractors that have been on our projects, and just make them accessible. Make them accessible to second tier, micro tiers, and other MWBEs are just like, hey, during the time of COVID, one thing that everyone realizes is that you need to expand your portfolio. Because if your whole business was in one segment, and that segment was suffering, or that segment had a slowdown, I don't want you to just do all these years of doing the right thing and growing your business to just have it washed away. So Meet the Primes is a great event. I've experienced many in the past where you get to walk up to the table, hopefully, or virtually.
We'll be back. We'll be back eventually.
And just have that honest conversation. Hey, my name's Amaury. I provide this service. One, how do I get pre-qualified with you? Do you have a pre-qual system? And if you don't, and also, does my business make sense for what you're looking for?
And do you have your engineers there? Because you had said, and what caused me to ask that question is because you had said we don't really know what her services are. And it seemed to me like that would be the platform that will allow her to come in so that everyone doesn't have to send you their emails. It would be more appropriate if you have this venue and this platform. And we're looking to do how to do business with the city of Miramar. We're going to be launching those series. And I really am waiting to have that more profound platform once we're able to get back together, because I would like to have all of our project managers at the table.
Yeah, and
I want them, because people do business with people they know.
Yeah.
And I want them to meet. Howard?
I have been to some of the meet and greet that Turner has put out, and other major primes, some bigger prime. And I've gone and I've met with project managers, senior project managers, superintendents, and we're able to explain to them what we do. And so I find it, very beneficial for someone to attend these functions, because it helped get your name out there for people to know what you do. They put you on a list, and you're on their bid list. So whenever any projects come out, they'll send it to you if it's in your criteria of work.
Okay, so here's 3 other questions. Number 2, in some prime sub relationships, subs can sometimes be regarded as liabilities rather than contributors to the team. How can we change this narrative and be seen as assets rather than liabilities? We'll start with Howard today on that one.
Well, to be honest,
How did you do it?
I have experienced that, because there have been some subcontractors that you have put on your team hoping that they would succeed. And in fact, they didn't, and put you in a bigger spot. So what I found is that a lot of the primes or contractors, when they're looking for subs, they tend to work with people who they've done work with before. So you might find people who are genuinely qualified to do the work can't get in because they're kind of scared to use new people because of the experience. It's hard I can't tell you how we can fix that. It's very hard. But you sometimes have to take a chance on someone. They took a chance on me, and that's why I'm here. So I understand that.
Would you
But-
not agree that, and I don't mean to interrupt,
Go
that
ahead.
a mentor-protege sponsorship relationship, which is why we're here, is the perfect tool,
Yes.
platform that can be developed that allows them to really get to know more about the business, and that will never replace experience.
Right. Right. Right.
But they come prepared with capability statements. It's not as if they don't have experience. We're never going to offer the resume that I have in front of me, years of experience. It's just you don't know the firm. So that's where the mentor-protege sponsorship, and to the extent that you can identify that a firm has the viable experience, they worked on projects that you know of, they may come from other states and relocated here to Florida, but that, am I wrong? Is that not the perfect, and you've been working with it? That's why these programs were developed, to create that platform so that those dialogues can have a safe place to take place without the risk of a project, without getting to know them in some respect first.
Yeah, and it's important. You can attest to this. Construction is a risk-adverse industry.
Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
Because everyone's thinking that what they don't know is what you're looking for the whole time. And it's tough at times to kind of bring in someone where you know that. For me, it's just like, okay, great, I met you, we pre-qualified, you're in our system. It's just, I know that it's going to take some convincing to have someone from procurement who has a deadline, a budget that they're targeting, and knows that the work performance has to be on point, because it's not only a reflection of the contractor, but it's also a reflection on us. It's also a relationship with a client that you're trying to maintain. So I do want to have what we call open door sessions. So what I'm trying to do to try to kind of not fix this problem, but kind of address it, is to create a tier system where you meet me first, we go over all your information, I introduce you to us, because working with us and our systems, unfortunately, is different than working with him,
directly with a
which is
construction
different
company.
with working with you.
Correct.
So
Right.
every
With an
firm
agency.
has a different culture and a different set of priorities. So for me, it's just a matter of like, meet me, I'll kind of break that learning curve a little bit, and then I'll set up within 2 weeks an actual session with procurement.
Excellent.
So they can get to know you, they get to know your firm. And yeah, because I don't want them to be stuck in that position where it's just like, hey, this is entry-level position, but they're asking you for 10 years of experience.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, you see that everywhere else.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to combat that.
Or on various projects, with the insurance question earlier. A great problem a lot of the minority consultants were having is these boilerplate solicitations
Yes.
with, $1 million insurance policies, and, you had a lot of the micro, especially the micro firms, and these smaller businesses saying, I'm not even driving, but I have to have this. This is not falling into anything concerning the area of expertise or the services that I'm going to. So making those types of adjustments, again, the mentor sponsorship allows you an opportunity to not only hear the concerns and the things that they consider barriers, that are barriers for them, to a safe space to address and hopefully resolve. Third question, how can small businesses position ourselves for primes to take a chance on us in a mentor-protege relationship? I did not read that beforehand. We've already spoken to that a couple of times, and we have quite a few, but you've heard that answer throughout this process. Fourth question, how do we market our services to stand out among the crowded field of competitors vying for opportunities to do business with a Turner or a D2? How do they market themselves? I mean, not everyone will have their questions and they're forwarded directly to the Turner and D2 as these sub-consultants will, and you'll see the names at the bottom that I am going to forward you. You'll get to see the actual question and be able to reach back to get there. So without that, well, how do they know about the Meet the Prime? My question, if I heard you correctly, would be your Meet the Primes. Is there a place or a platform that we can get to? Hold that. Howard. How do we get to the construction owner?
Well, Well, for my subs, the way I find a lot of my subs is through the pre-qualification process that we put out. We also utilize Miami-Dade County Public Schools database. It's a lot of pre-qualified contractors there.
Mm-hmm.
There are micro businesses, there are small businesses, they're allocated. So you can go there, once they're pre-qualified, you know they've met certain criteria to get there. So you can, utilize them, they're qualified to do the work. We have our own in-house, but we also use, and I can also speak to the way Miami-Dade County does their bid solicitations. We will send out if we get a contract to bid out from the school board, we would send out our invitation to bid to our pre-qualified contractors. But they also have a system where they blast emails out to everybody that's on their pre-qualification list. And if you go online, you'll be able to see it there, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll also get emails identifying who the prime is,
Mm-hmm.
when the bid opening is, when the pre-construction meeting is. So that's a way that you can get involved, to go out to these pre-construction meetings, see who's participating, and get your name out there.
Excellent, excellent. You answered one of my questions, agency questions. What is your pre-qualification process?
Right.
So we're answering them going. Amaury, did you have anything you wanted to say on that?
I mean,
How do they market themselves? Would it be through your platform or another way?
there's unfortunately you're gonna have to use a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
and that's tough to ask for when you're a small shop. If you're a micro business, you're talking about what, 3 people?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that person is a president, vice president, administrative assistant, superintendent. So it's
When you first started.
Absolutely.
and it's a tough burden. I think it's going to be flexible to some degree with regards to what type of projects you are trying to pursue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sometimes you might say, hey, I might be a good second tier, right? And I think you might have heard that before from us in Turner. You might want to be that prime, direct contract from us, but I think sometimes it makes more sense if you meet a contractor and you can be a second tier to that contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Get on the site, perform the work, start building that experience. And then when it comes to events and meet the primes and open door sessions or things like that, I think you're going to have to be incredibly targeted there, right? You're only a few people, you have limited resources. You can't be at everything.
Correct.
Because if you're at everything, then your business is suffering.
You're not working.
So that is going to be where you need to be really strategic with your time and efforts and resources, because they're limited.
Mm-hmm.
But on the project side, I think know what you're good at, but be willing to be a second tier, third tier if you have to just get your foot in the door and kind of just start performing work so you can actually to build up that resume.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent. Now, that is another note that came to mind as you were speaking, is don't underestimate the value of opportunities like today's session. When you see an agency say, we're implementing a new virtual mentor protege program or mentoring program, do you have any questions that you would like to submit? Submit the questions, because as you can see, it really can be a perfect way in which to get those. So ingenuity, it was the name of the game pre-COVID, and it will definitely be the name of the game on the other side. And we do look forward to going back to the traditional ways. Let's get to some of my agency questions. Okay, what is your pre-qualification process? I believe the two of you have already addressed that. Now, does yours surely allow you to bond back? Okay, we talked a little bit about insurance. I also have, in the city of Miramar, we are really fortunate to have a bonding agency, FSB agency, and they have been assisting minority contractors in securing bonding for over 34 years, right here in Miramar. And so minority, black-owned, female company, and so a bonding agency, it's a different kind of strategy, so she can't say, how can I do business with you all? What her approach is, she's a tool that I know the agency, we use her as a tool to assist us in positioning these contractors to be ready. So does your surety allow you, the question was from a company, does your surety allow you to bond back the entire project? I called our bonding agency So I have questions. Is this a question that I should be submitting to you? I called. I'm Gladys Keith. It sounds as if this is a question I should be, submitting to you more so than the primes. And she educated me. First, she wanted me to make sure, because we've been using her quite a bit to assist us in getting businesses to grow and position to secure their own bonding. She is definitely a proponent of not necessarily allowing primes to sub-consultants to only rely on the bond of the agency or the prime, but we have the capability, she says, through SBA and a myriad of new programs that exist, that any business that wants to do business in the construction agency that has any amount of experience, she can assist them in getting a bond. And so now that bond back, those are things that one of the contractors says they've seen as a barrier, that prime contractors are not interested in using you when you're looking to be able to use their bonding capacity. And that's a tool that's been able to eliminate or remedy that barrier for sub-consultants, is allowing them to either go on the bond of the prime. Have you seen that, number one, as a barrier? And do you agree with our surety consultant expert that says they have the capacity to be able, and those fees that are attached, they work with primes in order to see programs and services like the SBA be used to meet those fees?
Let me speak on that.
Howard.
One of the things that I do in my business, trying to help micro businesses, is that we qualify like a micro company, anything with like 200,000 or less. So if we have a contract, they're coming on as a second or a first tier, second tier, and it's less than 200,000, we don't require them to provide a bond.
Excellent.
So that allows them to participate, and our bonding company allows us to do that.
Okay.
All right, so that's not an issue. So I have benefited from that because I was a micro. I was the first micro enterprise business to become a small business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools.
Excellent.
So I know what they go through, and that's a good. I think also if I'm correct, the school board has that criteria. If it's anything under 200,000, you don't have to provide a bond.
And the city has.
And I think probably the city has that. So.
Excellent. Amaury, what were you thinking? I saw a lot going on during this process.
There's nothing going on here. There's nothing going on in decades. Bonding, first of all, to your first question, bonding is an issue. Bonding is an issue for small businesses, MWBEs, UBEs, and bonding can be a barrier, just if we're talking honestly about this. What I've been able to do in the past is use a lot of resources that are around me to help them. There are a lot of bonding programs out there, and there's a lot of business development programs out there, and a lot of agencies and chambers that can also assist you with resources.
Which
so
we do.
What I've been doing a lot over the last years is I'm connecting you to that person. So it's just like, hey, I'm not sure how I can address this issue or this concern. Also, every single project that we're on is going to have a different client, different parameters, different requirements. But bonding is going to be an issue no matter where you end up being. So I have connected people to like NMSDC.
Yes. Yes.
I've talked to
Beatrice Lewis and her team. Excellent.
So I've talked to people in Miami-Dade for like the MBDA, and I'm like, hey, these are resources. They can help you with the process.
Great programs.
They have programs for it, and just like anything else, not as many people apply or solicit for help that you might think they do. Because sometimes that happens. It's like. It's like when you're in college and you're looking for scholarships. It's like, oh my God, everyone's applying, and then you realize, no, there aren't as many applicants as you think for these programs.
So many funds go on.
And these are programs that are there and put in place that are, they're supported by these agencies, and these agencies are looking to help you and provide business planning.
People in place whose job it is to find you to take advantage of it.
And I think that's been the most effective way to get it rolling. Because this is something that's like, hey, whether you work with us or you work with you, it's that same person at MSDC is going to be your contact person, no matter who you're soliciting and going after. And I think these are resources that are underutilized.
Excellent. And they say when she and I, the bonding experts, they have these joint ventures in different ways that she's seen people to be able to do it. Let's move to another agency question. do you offer administrative staff project sub-consultants to assist minority contractors? Because like you said, and I heard in a question earlier, larger companies have a host and a myriad of individuals at their disposal from everything from preparing the solicitation response to performing pre-construction, design, build, whatever. Every phase they have a host, and they sometimes, I do know because when I was a small business owner, they hire and use some of those resources on the project to hire sub-consultants to do this. Have you seen that those sub-consultants, and remember we're talking mentor protege sponsorship. I find that an area where a sponsorship would be good. You have all of this administrative staff at your disposal. Would you not see that as a Turner, making that available more so than a individual owned company? I could see a Turner allowing that administrative staff, or have you seen your agency make that available to the micro or minority companies that you see on your projects can really benefit from the assistance?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen projects where a Turner staff member is engaging and assisting a subcontractor. Now, of course, there's a lot of legal barriers, and you have to make sure that everything is appropriate, that the system is there in place, that everything's compliant. But that being said, it is a great resource. I've seen it done almost every time that we've done it. The person's on our payroll, it's our staff member, and you're utilizing them so they can kind of share their experience, help you fill in this gap, and help you develop. So it's like it's a good opportunity to assist and help someone grow, and once again kind of lower that learning curve. But I have seen it on projects in the past where our staff members are basically given to a contractor. But everything has to be through a formalized program, and everything has to be transparent and set in place, but it has happened before.
Excellent. Now, Howard, I've heard you shout out about Miami-Dade County School Board over and over. And I actually was given your name by Jennifer Andreu, a great friend.
That's my biggest client. So
excellent. Excellent. And again, minority firms, I want you to hear that he is one of their largest prime contractors. He has a lot of work at the Miami-Dade County School Board, which is why I have him on this panel. Now, you have worked with the B2G diversity software.
Yes.
It is a software that we now have at the city of Miramar that I'm most excited about, and I definitely made that one of my agency questions. Talk about that's a diversity software that's in place to assist prime and sub-consultants in having a more technologically advanced way in which to adhere to monitoring and compliance requirements on a contract.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that program.
Right, that program, I think it's encompassing Miami-Dade County Public Schools and Miami-Dade, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they have it as well.
And all of our projects are listed on there, and every payment that you make to a subcontractor has to be reported. And this is one of the ways they keep track to see if you're meeting the goals, and see if you're paying your subs, the minority subs, when you get paid. It's like a prompt. I think they have like a prompt payment act. So you can't go in there and try to falsify documents. So it's a way of making sure that your subs are being paid and everybody is staying happy.
Okay.
So it's a very important and useful program.
Have you found that your second and third tier enjoy the system and
Absolutely.
reporting?
The only issue I'm finding out is that if they don't report on time, then you get this non-compliance request from the city or from the
system.
From
the system notifies you that
your sub hasn't responded. You need to reach out to them because they give you, they warn you and
7
make sure
days,
that
yes.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that you have to do. You have to educate the subcontractors as to how to use the program, when to report, and then you have to keep calling. Say, hey, you need to make this report. It's outstanding. And that's one of the things they use to score how well you're doing, when you're going for future jobs.
Excellent,
so it's very
excellent.
important.
And we have those systems that we're putting in place now. Because, and we have to educate them that this is a tool to assist you so that they could use it. Amaury, Turner, definitely familiar with the B2G now?
They are, but I'm not.
This is a tool, and I knew he would be able to speak to it. And I have you guys go back and forth, mentor protege, and I spoke to him because I know he has the B2G now. But it is a program that we're using here, and we're excited about it here at the city. And one of the subs were just express a concern. Dr. Hollis, how is it that the primes respond when something has been reported and I didn't get the payment?
Right.
I want the prime to be honest.
Right.
Can you get them to be honest? How do you feel when your sub-consultants go into the system and say, I have not been paid? Have you experienced that? How does that work?
Well, I have not, because I've made sure to pay my subs.
Excellent answer.
So it's always I'm trying to get them to report that they've received payment.
That's your number one challenge.
So
Okay.
it's been the other way around for me.
Good to know. Good to
Like-
know.
Like we have internal programs that serve the same purpose. One of the many hats I wear also is compliance.
Yes.
So I do track our utilization. First of all, I track our contracts to see where the goals are. Then our utilization. Then I actually go to the job site and have the conversation about, hey, these numbers, where are we? What was contracted? What's
That's
paid
right.
to date? What's anticipated?
Right.
But and then there's one thing people have to know about our projects is that it's going to be unique. Our utilization of that system is going to be unique whether or not the client on that project, being Miami-Dade, is asking for it. So then the person on that project itself will be localized with regards to using it.
Excellent. We've done 2 webinars explaining the system and letting the firms know that there's free training on how to use the system, and it continues throughout.
Sign me up.
Now, I'll send you that information. It's open to everyone, and you can go onto our bid site. So I will be sending that as well. Next question. Are you open to measures to assist micro subcontractors to move from residential to commercial? Let me explain. One of the things that I'm doing now and in trying to prepare for the next phase post-COVID, in the city of Miramar, we had pre-COVID 202 construction firms in the city. We can no longer go on the existing numbers because we have to go back and see just how many. As you know, the SBA is reporting that over 500,000 minority and small contractors will not make it. And not all are micro, but a lot of businesses really will not survive and have not. They closed door with no plans to reopen. And so a lot of the numbers of exactly how many firms we have in the city, we have to go and reassess post-COVID, which we haven't gotten to post-COVID as yet with the numbers continuing to rise. But we have, and when developing this micro business concept again, in the city of Miramar, we have 33 what most people refer to as handymen, but I refer to as residential consultants. And when I think of a mentor protege sub-consultant sponsorship idea, I'm not only talking about the IPSs that have the experience. I am most interested in doing what we can to elevate our local businesses, especially those, because remember, everyone starts somewhere. Those residential handymen are quite skilled, business savvy, and that bring tools and skills that can be viable and are being used on every project, but they're just being used as employees. Do you not agree that the mentor protege sponsorship platform would be a viable way to assist these residential handymen to grow beyond just being a handyman, to be able to offer services and their skills to the both of you? And I want both to answer. I know you can't speak directly, but I'd like to speak to a construction contractor because you know, and you've worked with, I don't want to speak for you, the handyman type on projects,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And we're interested in scaling up. We have 33 that are here in the city of Miramar, and I'm interested in scaling them up to be able to offer their services to you.
Well, listen, I don't discriminate whether residential or commercial.
Great
If you can,
answer.
if you can perform construction. If you can do work in the residential, you can work in the commercial. That's
Correct.
how I look at it.
As do I.
I stay away from residential for
Correct.
personal reasons. So I stick to institutional commercial type work. So I encourage these people to reach out, send in their resumes, sending their whatever they have done. If they form a company, send in their company's profile, so we can keep them on file. We have painting projects. We have
Yes.
we have flooring projects. We
Yes.
have miscellaneous work that can be done. They're small enough that it would interest them and might not interest a bigger
Exactly.
subcontractor. So we definitely would look forward to having them on our pre-qualified list.
Excellent.
of-
Well, I
for
have
bidders.
33 I'll be talking
Absolutely,
to you
send them
about.
to 'em.
And yes, I know my numbers. All right, we are almost done. Are there any measures in place to ensure more inclusion for what? Our women-owned minority. This is celebration of Women-Owned Businesses Month, for those of you that do not know. And so I'd like to know, and I'll start with definitely Amaury and Turner, what measures, specific measures, do you know of that are in place to ensure more inclusion for minority-owned, women-owned businesses?
Now, nationally, we have an initiative for all NWBEs and targeting also WBEs. And we have several programs and several projects where these goals are actually, whether the client has it or not, nationally we do have goals, 20% across the board, whether the client has asked for it or not. And that's always what we're working towards.
Excellent.
And that goal, of course, has to be recalibrated, based on the economic climate that you're in. But it is my job to go out and see what women-owned businesses are out there, what work they can perform, and how they can play a role in our projects. Because at the end of the day, it's just like the goals are great as a minimum. You kind of give someone a barometer, but at the same time, you're talking about people. I mean,
Yes.
you want
right.
you
That's
want people to succeed. And as a general contractor, it's just like we can only take on as many projects as we can staff or contract out. So, the more viable women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses that we can get, the more projects that we'll actually be able to, participate on and fulfill.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Believe it or not, that was all of my questions for the agency and for all of the women-owned businesses. You did hear Turner has a 20% annual goal. So you can send me your women-owned businesses that have joined us today. Send an email to kehollis@miramarfl.gov. kehollis, HOLLIS, at miramarfl.gov. Let me know that you are a woman-owned business. Send and attach your capability statement so that I can forward it to Amaury, because I want to ensure that he know you exist and allow you an opportunity to be on his list of businesses that he consider in trying to meet that 20% goal, which fluctuates, which I heard him say according to requirements. Now, we do have a disparity consultant that sent just a few, and I think we have a few more moments that we could talk about. And these are pretty much mentor-protege type questions, Mari, which I would go with you. There are 5 questions that she submitted.
Go for it.
And the first one, why don't I just read them, because I think we've talked about a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you'll see, but then I'll let you just talk overall. But here are the 5 questions that I'm really excited that she forwarded. What qualities should each party have for a successful relationship? What are the basic capacities or skills should the protege cultivate to be ready for the mentor-protege relationship? What metrics should an agency adopt in determining whether to approve a mentor-protege relationship? What metrics should an agency adopt to gauge the progress and the success of the mentor-protege relationship? And last but not least, what incentives should an agency consider for the mentor in adopting a program? Very interesting.
Very targeted. She
Yes.
worked really hard on those.
She's an attorney. She sounds like an attorney, Colette Holt.
So
And she was
I should
really
be
nice.
happy it doesn't have Article A, B, 1.2.
But what I love when I read her questions is she's very serious. So we as an agency, the city of Miramar, we're looking to develop one. And so these are questions that would be fantastic, even if you don't have the answer in specifics today, that I would like for you to go back and speak with your risk management and other areas that you can answer. So please.
No, these are great questions because these are questions that I have to ask myself, right? So, COVID has changed the way we do business. I'm stepping into a new role in South Florida. Same job, different market. And I have to ask myself these same questions. Like, these are programs that are, okay, do we have them? What do they look like? Does that still matter? And what are they asking for, right? So these are the same way that she's looking at these things. And requirements, like is saying that a business has to be in the industry 3 years, doing $1 million worth of work, is that the barometer? Like, that's going to be the first step to her question is like, what are the barometers, right? Mm-hmm. So right now we're in the process of seeing what makes sense, especially in this climate. You just said that 50% of the businesses are going to go under due to COVID, right? And unfortunately, disproportionately, anytime we have these types of incidents, minority families are impacted across the board. Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking about construction or restaurants, Black and brown people are going to feel the brunt of this first. So for the first thing for me, the challenge for me, and I would love her input, is what do you feel is a feasible barometer? Is 3 years, let's say $500,000 of work volume per year, a good barometer for that? And then after that is, what are the systems that we need to put in place to make sure that we can support minority-owned businesses? Is anytime that you have a mentor sponsorship program, are you doing a memorandum of understanding where it's just like, hey, this is what I owe you, this is what you're going to get, and then have like an informal, formal agreement about what the level of expectations are? Because I think sometimes you enter these programs and you're overwhelmed by the upfront information, but when the program goes into place, you're like, are these things happening? I remember the flyer and I remember the bullet points, but it's just like, am I getting all of this? And if I am, did I miss it? Is it not what it looks like? So I think transparency with regards to what the expectations are, what your qualifications are, and what the purpose of it is. I think sometimes we're so happy to launch something that we don't think about why we're launching something. And that's the only positive thing about this whole situation that we're in, is that it gives people time to kind of reassess, reevaluate, and say, okay, we don't need to do this anymore. Do you need more access to a project manager? Okay, cool. Like, well, what project manager makes sense for your line of work? Or what project? Or do you need more access to a prime contractor that's on one of our projects? Or do you need more access to, let's say, Baptist Health or Jackson Health, because you're working in that sector? They have their own list and process. So I think those are the things that you need to be honest with yourself before you even walk up to a person like me and have that business plan that's kind of been reevaluated to match what's going on now. And then also don't be shy about coming with a list of requirements. Like, hey, Turner, I would love to participate in this program, but can you provide access to your project manager? Can you provide me with assistance and access to, let's say, agencies that I might not have the resources to contact? So those are the things that, as far as we go, as long as I have that information, I know what to do with it and kind of run with it.
Excellent, excellent. And she is a minority-owned law firm, which every type of business services, I tell people, government buys everything. and the larger, once you become nationwide, you use all types of services as well. Yes. And so I will forward you the questions from her, Colette Holt. She is assisting us. And when it comes to developing the metrics, perhaps she would be a perfect female-owned, Black-owned business to assist, and she is definitely one of the go-to individuals that people use in developing programs, and she's been instrumental with us here at the City of Miramar.
And for me, someone like that might actually also be a great asset to make available to our contractors.
Yes.
So if I'm running a technical services or a workshop or a Turner School of Construction Management, bringing in people like her that can sit down with them and share assets and resources can also be. So the networking doesn't always have to be up. It can easily be parallel. I've seen
Excellent.
joint ventures that
Excellent.
are like that,
That's
that
right.
work out as long as you are careful and strategic about it.
Yes, yes.
But at this time, it's just like, be smart because you have limited resources, but you have to be a little bit more open-minded now about your approach to things.
That's right. That's one of the key components of Big Connect. We strongly encourage and continue to insist the businesses do business with each other, because of those 50% that do survive, they will need even more assistance than they did pre-COVID.
Mhm.
So not only are they have the wherewithal to have been able to barely survive this pandemic, I can assure you the condition that they're in is not as strong as they were pre-COVID. And so they will definitely be in need of our services. Thank you, thank you,
Of
thank
course.
you both
Pleasure,
so
pleasure.
very much. That was not, you were concerned. That was not bad at all. Thank you to all of the small businesses, minority, especially women-owned businesses. And those of you that submitted your questions, as you can see, I was able to ask each and every question that had been submitted. For those of you that did submit those questions, I will be forwarding your information and the specific questions that you submitted directly to both of them, and to all of those that have the possibility now, and there's a plausible possibility that your services will be forwarded to their project managers and other businesses for inclusion in the future. Bravo. So when we do this again, which our calendar, the big calendar, which you can go into the City of Miramar website, we have the entire 2021 calendar. Remember, this is our first virtual mentoring session, and the City of Miramar will be doing this 2 other times. We kicked it off with Dade Prime Contractors. We will be doing our next one later throughout the year with Broward Prime Contractors, and then we're going to do it again at the end of the year with West Palm Beach Prime Contractors. So if you were not able to submit questions to this panel today, please, you won't be left out. You'll have another opportunity in the future to be able to participate. And as you can see, even submitting questions can possibly better position you for more inclusion for contracting opportunities. Again, this is the City of Miramar's new mentoring platform for mentors and mentees to form new equity building relationships. And the Business Inclusion and Diversity Program, our goal is to be able to connect primes with subconsultants across the Tri-County area, and our goal is to overcome these geographic and socioeconomic barriers in our ability to do so. Thank you so much again. It's always a pleasure to have you on board with us. We trust that the information provided today will position you to be able to grow. For those of you that have submitted questions on the chat, just know that each and every one of your questions will be reviewed and forwarded to, hopefully you specify whether you want Howard or Amaury to be able to answer those questions, but I will forward them to both of them if you have not specified which one. Thank you again. I want anything you'd like to close out with, Mr. Diston?
No, I just want to say that it's a pleasure being here, being on the first webinar, and hopefully I might be invited again further on down the line, but I hope I provided some information, some valid information. And as I said before, I welcome all these information. If they want to send me questions, if they want to send me their resumes and company profiles, I'll happy to receive them.
And I will be providing his email and contact information. I needed him to say that. And Amaury, closing remarks, please.
I just want to thank the City of Miramar. It's my first time here.
Yes. Welcome to the city.
Thank
Everything's
you.
right here in Miramar, as we say.
Of course, and I look forward to working with contractors. This is a relationship, so it's both ways. So as much information as you give me, I'll be able to share information with you, because if we're going to move forward, and if these programs are going to come into place, I'm going to have wanting participants, and at the same time, I'm going to have to provide you with real contracting opportunities, so it's just not a nice conversation. So I look forward to working with everyone, and feel free to access our website or just contact me directly, and hopefully we can get through this together.
Excellent. Thank you again. I will be forwarding both of their contact information to each and every individual that not only participated and joined the webinar, but every one of you that have registered today. Thank you again. This concludes the webinar this afternoon. Have a good afternoon.